All right. Good evening, everybody. This is Ivan Oberon, and welcome to Ivan Oberon's Money Matters. Tonight is Thursday, September 18th, and I'm sure most of you, as I am blown away that we're already halfway through another month, more than halfway through. It seems like we just started September, and on the radio show this morning, we're already talking about looking towards different security steps that you can take and loss prevention methods for winter, like winterizing your properties, especially the vacant ones or the ones that are under renovation or are listed for sale vacant. And man, it's crazy that we're already starting to think about that. I remember even especially in this heat and this humidity that we've been having here. But it didn't seem like too long ago that my properties were under negative 18 degrees, and I had the water shut off and winterized, and I still had pipes bursting in one of the properties that I was wholesaling, and it was crazy. But I can't believe that we're already almost that time of the year, and we're already starting to scale back, and one of the markets that we're in Indianapolis, they get some pretty nasty weather, and they're saying that this year is going to be even worse than last year, if you can believe it. Because last year was probably the worst winter since I can remember, as far as how cold it was. And I was traveling all over the country and visiting some of those places, and man, experiencing and feeling the pain of some of my fellow investors in some of those other markets. So anyway, not to deviate too much, because tonight we're going to be going over 6 things your private and or hard money lender wants to see. And the purpose of this webinar, really why I came up with it, this is going to be kind of a broad stroke. We're going to start off pretty simplistic, pretty basic stuff, but I find that sometimes you gotta bring it back to the simple stupid for people to really kind of grasp it. And the idea here is I've done uh, pretty much 99% of my deals, really almost 100% of my deals with private money, cash. And we know hard money lenders. We have relationships with hard money lenders. I mean, I'm the exclusive consultant to the American Association of Private Lenders as far as insurance needs are concerned. And so I'm very familiar with that industry, but I've been blessed to mainly be using cash. And what I'm realizing here is, especially since we've been looking at bigger projects and leveraging different things and looking at hard money again for us personally, there are different things that you want to prepare so that you can present yourself in a professional way, so that you can present yourself, especially if you've never done a deal before. You want to understand what those people are looking for so that you can appear more experienced and thus give them a higher level of confidence in lending to you. And my very first deal, and like I said, all the deals since have been with cash, and I started off not ever having done a deal, obviously, like some of you. And I was able to convince this one guy to invest in me, and the very first investment was for a little over $400,000 in cash to acquire and hold and rehab this property in San Diego County. And it was all because of the way that I presented myself, all because of the way that I carried myself, and understood the process and was able to transfer that enthusiasm. Right? If any of you have seen my webinar on everyone's a salesperson, we're all selling, and so I was selling myself, I was selling my abilities, I was selling the hope for gain out of this particular strategy. And if you haven't checked that out, go to our website at c2crea.com /podcasts, and look for that particular episode there under Ivan Oberon's Money Matters. Just scroll through. All of the previous webinars are going to be on there, and they're recorded. And that's a really good one, whether you're in sales or not, because I go through just the basics on that, and then I also do the some of the best closing techniques. That's a different webinar. So anyway, I know that's off subject, but You're going to want to know that, especially if you're getting into this business, if you're an entrepreneur, whether you're investing in real estate or whatever it is that you're doing, you got to understand that you're a salesperson. So that's why I did those 2 webinars, to get you guys there, and that's why they're recorded, so you can always go back and listen to them. So once again, getting back on track, there are different things that you're going to want to show to when you're presenting a package, or when you're approaching somebody. And one of the things that I do, and one of the things that you want to get in the habit of doing with your hard money lenders, is use them as a resource. Okay, they want to help you. They want to see you succeed. And might be cases or times when you might be have a deal come up in a particular part of town, or in a market that maybe you're not completely familiar with, and your hard money lender is going to be a critical asset for you, because they are in those markets. They're familiar with whatever markets they're lending in. They're going to have people on the ground that understand that market and that can kind of guide you through those things. And so one of the things that I do is I'll present a particular property or deal that I'm interested in. Sometimes I might have it under contract already. Many times I don't, because I want to make sure. I've always been the money first guy. So when I got my education and I came out and I was doing this thing, I heard what everybody said and the gurus say, that you just go out there, you find the deal, and if it's a good deal, the money will follow. And that's kind of a half truth. Okay, if it's a good deal, the money will follow can be true if you have a significant network already established of people who are willing to lend money. And when you're first starting out, you don't have anything. You don't have anything set up. You don't have any kind of structure. You don't have any kind of lists. You don't have any kind of anything, right? So to me, it did not make sense to go find a deal first and then the money will follow. Because I felt that if I went and I found a deal and I got it under contract and I went and I did all these different things, then I couldn't get the money and I couldn't perform, I was going to start burning bridges and relationships with realtors and with people. And you know what I mean? I didn't want to do that. So I went out and I found the money first. And so that's kind of why sometimes I'll reach out to a hard money lender if it's a deal where I know or I think I might want to use hard money, and tell them, look, this is what I'm considering. This is where I want to go. What do you know about this market? Here are the comps that I found. Can you verify these for me? And they're more than happy in most cases to do that diligence with me, because I want to know what they're going to lend me, right? Because we all have our spreadsheets and our templates and our different things that we understand. Okay, well, more than likely they'll lend me this much of the rehab, more than likely they'll lend me this much of the purchase price, and then I can go do my numbers from there. I'm more of a facts guy, so I like to really go into it with my numbers, kind of padded or conservative, but I don't want to guess, because depending on how much money you're borrowing, what size deal you're talking about, if 75% of purchase price or 80% of purchase price or 90% of purchase price, I mean, that can make a big difference in the amount of money that you're going to borrow from them, and then what you're going to require for your gap funds. So let's get into this, understanding that my whole point there was, I'm a money first guy. So that's why I'll reach out to them. I'll use them as a resource, and they'll tell me, yes, on this particular deal, if you were to get it, and if everything checks out according to what you're saying this deal looks like, at least on the surface, we will lend you, 80% of purchase price and 100% of rehab, or 95% of rehab, or whatever it is. And I have some pretty creative and flexible hard money lenders, in addition to, of course, my all cash investors. So let's get into it. So the basic package in closing is really what we're going to call this, and what you're going to need. So this is the very first thing, and I guess I said I'm going to keep it very basic. The address and the ARV. When you're talking to your hard money lender, in most cases they're going to want to at least know what the address is, what the ARV is. And I didn't throw purchase price in there because I figured you guys could all catch that already, because it's so simplistic, right? But this is 1645 Scott Travis Lane. Scott is enjoying dinner with his wife right now. He's not here to defend himself, so I'm taking this opportunity to make fun of him because because I love him. But this is one of these crazy houses, right? Scott and I were in Corona Del Mar looking at a huge, uh, really it was a tear down development project with an ARV of over $4 million, and there's a lot of crazy things out there, and there's this house out there, they call it the Mushroom House. And I don't know if this guy was just like a fanatic for The Hobbit or what it is, but his roof line is just crazy. It's like this giant mushroom that envelops the house, and it's sold for nearly $4 million. So anyway, there's a lot of crazy things out there. That's really the basics, right? We're not going to spend too much time on this because you guys understand that you gotta at least know, have your ducks in a row. Okay, don't be talking to people and not know what you're talking about, not know what the property is, what it looks like, what the potential of the property is. And I'm only saying this, and I only put this in here at such a simplistic level, not to insult you guys, but because we get stuff sent over to us sometimes that doesn't even have an address. It's just like I have this, I found this property, and it's, so it's kind of a daisy chain, right? I found this property. This guy has this property, and he hasn't released the address. And guess what? Guess why those guys won't release the address? Because they don't have the thing under contract. They're trying to basically pawn it off or pass it off on somebody else without having done any of the work. And they don't have any equitable interest in the property by way of a contract and some kind of consideration, even if it's $1, right? So they won't give you the address. So just be sure you get to that through that first step. All right. Next thing, pretty obvious. Comps. If you're on Scott's webinar on Mondays, bird dogging opportunities, you hear him and me occasionally. I'll chime in there, just harp on the comps, and I'm gonna go through this and give you guys some examples of what that looks like. Let's see here. That's going to be, oh, I got stuff in the way. Let me pull up my viewer. And I pulled up this particular comps, the way that these are laid out. This shouldn't be unfamiliar to any of you, unless you're brand new and you've never looked at a deal. But comps are important, right? You're going to have a map, and the way that I usually like to have them is I like to have them laid out with the subject property, whatever that subject property is, on one page, so that I can see the requested purchase price, the square footage, the year built, the days on market, all those things, the lot size, because that's very important, all those things. And then I like to have my comps either on the side or below those things so that I can really have a side by side comparison. It makes my life a whole lot easier. So that's one thing that I like to do. And so I'll train my realtors to do that for me. But the reason that I chose this one, and of course we're not going to spend too much time in looking at those things, but of course, you get the, okay, it's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1930, it's one story. You get all that information, which is important, right? Because you're going to compare all those facts to your subject property, because you can't rely on your realtor to do your job for you. Okay, realtors will give you, oftentimes they will give you stuff that maybe it's in their best interest, and you got to understand that everybody is working to sell you too. Okay, because everybody involved, the contractors, the realtors, so if you're using a project manager, the project managers, all those people are going to make money on your deal, whether you do or not. And that's something very important to keep in mind. So the contractor is gonna tell you certain things to make you feel confident and to do the deal. So you gotta understand, where to see through the smoke there. Your realtor is gonna try to give you certain things to make you feel more confident, so that you do the deal, so that you buy the property, so that they can make their 3% on the buy side, they can make their 3% on the sell side, and if they find the buyer, they can make the other 3%. So I mean, they stand to make almost 9%. So in many cases they'll start giving you some stuff, and if you're not educated in exactly what you want and what really is a comp, and what really what the year builts are, what the basically the range in year built, so the range in square footages, all those different things, the distance to what an actual comp looks like, or what would be considered a comp in depending on the market that you're in, all those different things are going to play a factor. Okay. And not going off too much off topic here, I want to educate those who are brand new, who don't understand those things, so that when you are reviewing deals, these are all things that you have to keep in mind. For example, we have a comp right here, year built 1930. We have a comp right here, year built 1960. Now, depending on the market you're in, that's way too big of a swing. And of course, depending on how old the properties are, etc. But the newer you get, say your subject property is built in 1905 and your comps are in the 1970s and 1980s. That's not going to work for you. Okay, but the other point here that I'm making, and why I pulled this one up, and this is just a PDF. I made it into a PDF, but the live comp feed in this, you can see there's 17 pictures here. Okay, so if this wasn't a PDF, I could actually click through these pictures and see what those comps look like. And that's what the majority of people don't do. As far as people, stuff that we get sent, they don't do this. They don't understand that it's critical that you see those pictures. And it's critical that when you are comping stuff out, that you don't just get the right, year builds, the right distance to the subject property, the right, comparable stuff, as far as the data is concerned, because you don't know what that property looks like. And it may have a certain roof style, it may have a certain a construction style that maybe is more favorable in that area, and some other ones are not, and you might need to make some changes. And the finishes are the most critical. Okay, so if you don't know, and this one has 25 pictures. This is great. This was a great set of comps that this realtor sent us, because you'll find in a lot of cases, there might be 2 pictures, 3 pictures, there might be no pictures at all, and it's very difficult to do that. But this one here, well, you can throw it out altogether, right? Why? Built in 2004. It's not a comp. I don't care where it's at. You know what I mean? It's just not really. It's not going to comp out. The appraiser is not going to use that as a comp. So unless that property is basically in the same price range as all the other ones, you can't use it as a comp. Say that one. Say this one is your highest priced one. You can't use it because of the year built. So anyway, you want to make sure that when you're presenting stuff to your lenders, you go and you give them a set of comps. Here's the address. Here's what we're doing with it. Here's the estimated ARV, and here's the proof. Here are the comps. Okay, now, is your hard money lender going to pull comps for themselves? Absolutely. Are they going to verify everything that you send them? Absolutely. What's the point here? What's the purpose? The purpose is for you to present yourself in a professional manner as somebody who knows what they're doing. And somebody who knows what they're doing it's like we tell everybody, in Scott's webinar and people that I deal with, it's sales. Going back to that, you got to make the other person, you got to give the other person all the information, or as much information required, to make it easy for them to say yes. If you give them an address and an ARV and, hey, what do you think you can do, and they have to do all the work, they're not going to like you very much. They're not going to like to work with you very much. You're not going to appear very professional. Okay, because if you knew what you were doing, you would gather everything, and boom, because time is money. The faster somebody can say yes, the faster and easier you make it for other people to say yes to you in your deals, whether you're wholesaling them or bringing them as a bird dog lead, or you're presenting it to a lender, you gotta have all the information required to get them to say yes, the easiest way possible. I'm kind of driving this point home, but it's if you can tell, I'm passionate about that, and that's what I like to do, and it's worked out well for me. So I want you guys to take that information and take it with you. Okay, so let me close out of this. Any questions? Everything makes sense, right? Good. Comments? It's all welcome. Okay. So next, rehab estimate. Better yet, a bid and a scope. Now I have this little picture here, which obviously I'm gonna give you a little bit closer look. But this, of course, is also a floor plan. And you're not always going to get a floor plan, but at the very least, you want to make sure that you have, again, as much information as possible. So what does that look like? No, I don't want to go there. Here is a bid and a scope for a property that a project I started this week. So I like to use the fresh stuff, right? So this particular property is in Indianapolis, and you can see up here I got my total price for the rehab, $33,185, and this is what you want to see. Okay, you don't just want to see kind of a haphazardly put together. We're going to make these rooms look nice, and the kitchen's going to look great, and we're going to paint the house, and we're going to replace things that need to be replaced and put new floors in, and it's going to cost you this much money. Okay, you want to make sure that you have as much detail as possible. And if you get a lazy contractor that sends you something like I just described, maybe it's a good, it's okay enough just to get you going. Like maybe you don't have the property under contract yet, or maybe you haven't closed on it yet. Like that's okay just to get you started and get you down the road. But as soon as you're committing or making some kind of commitment to that property, and you're going to purchase it, you got to go back to them. And this is obviously something that we talk about in our rehab consulting service when we work with you, personally, walk you through the entire deal, even from the beginning, help you vet out the deal, all your power team members, all that kind of stuff. But this is critical. You want as much detail as possible so that that contractor knows exactly what they're doing, and they're not going to miss anything. Okay, this is one of the things that I talk about, and that I tell people, or my contractors, like, I don't want any change orders. Like, I understand sometimes they happen, sometimes they're inevitable because they can't catch everything, they can't catch things behind walls or buried when they go to look at pipes and the sewer drains and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes things will happen. Okay, but the point is that you want to make sure that you have as detailed a bit as possible. And there you go per room: exterior, living room, what we're going to do in the stairwell, the dining room, the kitchen, the half bath, the master suite, bedroom 2, bedroom 3, upstairs bathroom, miscellaneous stuff, exterior. And then I have him up here put some options for, are we going to upgrade the counters? Are we going to put a privacy fence? Are we going to put a backsplash? And this particular property is going to be a rental, so we're not going crazy on it. We are upgrading the counters a little bit because it just made sense for the difference. To go from a nice Formica to a decent hard surface or granite, it was like $300 difference. So in this particular case, so we made the decision we're gonna do that. It's broken out the materials and the labor, and the basically what the draw schedule is going to be like. And down here, what'll end up happening is you can break down the specific costs: flooring, electrical, the draws, all that kind of stuff. So this is what I like to see. And I'm giving you guys more of a kind of an education also as far as like what you want to look for, not just this is something that you want to present to your lenders. Get to show yourselves like you're ready, like you're prepared to do this and take this thing down. So, but these are the things that you want to look for and what they are. And in a perfect world, you'll have them break it out line item by line item, dollar per dollar, exactly what it is. And some of them won't do that. This at least I'm happy with and comfortable with. But going to that next level, sometimes some of the contractors think that I don't know, you'll try to nickel and dime them to death, and Scott's a contractor, so he's more sensitive to those things, and he understands those things. But as you get going, you got to understand, what does it cost to do this? What does it cost to do that? And that's one way that you can make sure that you keep your costs in line. All right. So bid and scope. Very important. All right. Any questions there? Oh, you know what? I did want to show you this too, because I think it's kind of cool. Where do I have it? No, that wasn't it. All right. Well, tell you what. You guys want to see what this floor plan looks like? It'd be kind of cool, right? And I had it up here. Is it no, that's not gonna, oh, you guys like my car, huh? Okay. Well, come on. All right, here. Let me just take you behind the scenes, and you'll see. I know I have so much crazy stuff in here. All right. Man, why isn't that opening up? Well, I guess we'll move on, because it doesn't want to open up. It was there, and I had it ready for you guys, but it just keeps doing that. Oh well. Yeah, see, I'm trying to pull it up, but okay. Anyway, the if you have a floor plan, you won't always get a floor plan. Okay, sometimes some contractors charge for it, sometimes they don't. It's good to have it, just so you know kind of like the layout of the house, how it's going to be. Make sure that they know what it is that they're doing, because I'm telling you, I made this mistake one time. Yeah, I didn't confirm the layout. I didn't confirm exactly how it was going to be put together, and the kitchen looked great, but man, they screwed up the design. They didn't leave enough real obvious aesthetic room for a refrigerator. And who designed it, I don't know, but if I had seen the floor plan, if I knew what the design was gonna be like, that was my mistake. I didn't do that. So that's one of the reasons that you want to be involved in that process if you can. Even if you're doing it remotely, that's fine. You can get them to even hand draw or draw some kind of design for you. And if they can't do that, maybe they're the wrong guy. Now, obviously, that's if you have a property that doesn't already have a current layout. And we've done a lot of major rehabs where in many cases the properties were completely thrashed, and the drywall was kicked out and walls were down and things of that nature. So it wasn't like really clearly obvious where the kitchen needed to be, and if the kitchen was a certain way, maybe it wasn't the best use of that floor space, so you had to redesign it anyway. In many cases, if you're not doing that big a rehab, then this point won't matter as much to you. But if you do step into that, that's something that you want to be aware of. All right. So then, of course, you got to present to them the plan of action and the exit strategy. What are you going to do? And again, just remember that this is going to apply. You won't necessarily send a tremendous amount of detail to your hard money lender, when you're first approaching them, but depending on the size of the loan and what you're doing, and of course, if you're dealing with a private money lender, you want to give them and sit down with them with as much information as possible. And so, putting together a nice presentation or a nice prospectus, a nice something to show that you care for their time, that you've put the time into it, that you know what you're doing, is important. And something that I've used many times is something just like this, right? It's just a basic presentation. And what you're doing here is you're outlining the deal for the particular lender. Who you are, what you're going to do, how much money you want to borrow, what the property looks like. This was actually my very first property that I rehabbed in Indianapolis. There's a picture of it. That's the actual address. You know, what the summary is, what's going on there. Some of you, if you've been following me around for a long time, may have seen something like this before, but this is something that I've used with my private money lenders all the time. What we're going to do to it now with this, if you're dealing with a hard money lender, and especially if you're dealing with a little bit higher end property, you want to take this page and then really expand on it. Put pictures, explain what your finishes are going to look like, where they're coming from, what you're spending roughly on those finishes, because especially in the higher end properties, that's going to make or break your deal. And for a lender that's going to lend you a whole bunch of money, that's going to make them feel more comfortable letting them know that you did your diligence. So you can add several pages to this and say, okay, this is what we're putting in. We're going to have the option of these pulls, or these cabinets, and these types of counters, and this types of floor, and this is what it looks like. This type of backsplash, these lights and ceiling fans, all that kind of stuff. Right. So you get real detailed. Then you break down your expenses and what the deal looks like, as far as what your profit margins are, and what you're buying it for, and what the ARV is. And then here you go. You can add in your comps. And what I like to do, here's a side-by-side comparison. So again, you would extrapolate those comps, put them in a presentation like this, and say, here's the subject property. Here are the different comps next to them. This is what the days on market are. And I know I'm going pretty fast because we have a certain amount of time, and I think you guys can keep up with this kind of information. Stop me if you have any questions or comments. But again, I break it down all the way down to the price per square foot. Throw some additional pictures in there. Obviously, these aren't the same pictures of the one in the front. I don't know how these got mixed up. This was a different property that I did. As you can tell, pretty jacked up. All right, so that's something that you can do to really show yourself as somebody who's taking the time, who knows what they're doing, right? Even if you haven't done that many deals before, even if you've never done a deal before in your life, if you can learn how to present yourself professionally and as someone who has done it before and many times and have experience, I'm not saying that you have to be dishonest. It's just the way you carry yourself and the way that you present yourself will speak volumes. And in many cases, if you know how to present yourself, people won't even ask you, hey, how many deals have you done? Have you done a deal before? They'll just roll with you. And especially if you've taken the time to develop that relationship. Make sense? All right. Moving on. And you guys probably saw this coming, right? Insurance. You got to make sure. Now, this of course is a little bit more when dealing with a hard money lender. Before they close the loan, they're going to want to make sure that you have insurance in place. Your private money lender, if they're doing 100% financing, isn't necessarily going to require it before they give you the money, but they are going to want to see it very, very soon after that. And let's go into that a little bit and what that actually looks like. especially for those of you who maybe aren't very familiar with these things. So this is what a property evidence of insurance would look like. This is our company. This is the insurance company that I started using when I found them, and now I work to represent them because I like them so much, and they're perfect for real estate investors. So it's going to list out who you are, who the named insured is. So there's my company, who the what the coverages are for the dwelling amount, what the coverage form is, what I selected, special form, actual cash value, or am I doing replacement cost, my theft amount, all those different things. The lender is not going to be as concerned about that, but they will be concerned about who the additional interest is here, right? And then this is very important right here. They need to be listed as mortgagee. That's what they're going to want to see. And you're going to put that whoever the mortgagee is, the lender, the hard money lender, or the private money lender, who's giving you 100% of the money, right here as mortgagee. And you have to make sure that regardless of who the entity is or what kind of entity you're doing business in, that your insurance company is going to not have a problem with the type of ownership entity that owns your deal. Here's basically the general liability portion. So very, very similar, but now you're doing the commercial general liability. I always recommend you do $1 million. At the very least $500,000, but the cost difference is just, it's almost negligible for double the coverage. So you want to make sure that you have the right coverage there. Now your hard money lender is not going to necessarily care so much about the liability because they're not necessarily concerned whether you get sued or not and what's going to happen there, but they still do want to be listed on there, and that's very important. And another thing to consider is that more and more lenders are requiring the lender's loss payable endorsement as a BFU endorsement. And if you're not sure if your current insurance company is offering that or what they do, you're going to find yourself in a hard place once more and more of these private lenders are starting to pick up on this lender's loss payable endorsement, which all of the big mortgage companies like Wells Fargo and B of A and all those people have been using for years, but it hasn't been something that has really been used in the private lending industry. But now more and more of them are picking up on this, like, hey man, maybe we better start requesting this particular endorsement on our certificates. And if your insurance company isn't on board with doing that and adding that endorsement, you might find yourself in trouble. And of course, we're on top of that and we offer it. All right. So that is the basic presentation. If you have all those things and you present yourself and you use that as a package, whether you're going to meet a private money lender, which is the very first thing that I did, was I met with my private money lender. I wasn't really sure, what I was going to do. It was my first meeting. I'd never done a deal before, but I had just this feeling that if I studied and if I knew exactly what it was going to take, and I put it all together and I explained it, they were gonna see how confident I was in it, and they were gonna believe in what I was doing. They were gonna buy into the enthusiasm that I had. So I did. I put together a whole package. I put together the numbers, how they break down, how the process is gonna work. I had this presentation. I had at the time, since I didn't have a deal, I didn't even have a deal under contract because again, I was going money first, right? Deal second. So what I did was I put together a what if scenario of a property in an area where I knew that people were doing deals in, that I had looked up online. I took a picture, saved the picture of it. I had the address and the price and everything. And I didn't pose it off as this is a deal that I have. I said, this is the types of deals that we're doing, and this is how it's going to work. And of course, this is to the benefit of those of you who've never done a deal before. I'm assuming there's at least one or two of you on this call. And if not, forgive me, but that's what I did. And going from there, you put the same type of package together. You're gonna have here's what the purchase price is. This is what they want, and if that's the purchase price, but you're gonna offer less, then do that. Explain that, and this is what the estimated repairs are. This is what the ARV is going to be. These are the comps verifying and that ARV. So, and this is why they're comps, and they might say yes, they might say no. Your private money lender, cash lender is not going to really question that. They'll take a look at it, but they're not going to be as well versed and as sticky about it as a hard money lender will do. They won't necessarily verify because they're not in the business, unless you're borrowing from somebody who's in the business, obviously. And you have that, and you have your pictures, you have your exit plan. This is what we're going to do, because maybe you're fixing and flipping, but the last one that I showed you, we're doing that as a rental. So the numbers and the exit strategy are going to be different on that one than on your conventional retail flips. So you gotta present that, and what it's gonna be, and how long you're gonna hold it for, and what and maybe you present two different exit strategies. Just if this doesn't work out, I have this other backup plan. Maybe you do that. It's not necessarily something you have to do all the time, but it's good to if they ask, what if this doesn't happen? And I've had private money lenders ask me that before. Well, what if we don't get the price we want, and we have to come down to a break even point? Can we? And this was somebody who was very open to the idea, so that he was asking me, well, what if we do this? What if we don't do that? Can we, if we had to, or if we wanted to, if we weren't going to get the return that we want, can we potentially put a tenant in it and cash flow it for a while, and then maybe sell it later? And so those will be questions that you guys have. And if you don't have those questions, and you're sensing during the interview what their concerns might be, you can even volunteer it and say, hey, and because of where we're at, and in this market, and et cetera, we can also do this. So we have two exit strategies, which is why this is going to be even a more secure investment for you, et cetera. All right, so you have all those things. Now you have the information, you've given them the prospectus, you've told them about yourself, you have all the basic pieces that they're going to want to see, and that's going to take for you to look professional. Okay, so now, any questions, any comments before I move on to the final part of my presentation? Ready to raise your hand, type it in the box. If you want to say something out loud, I'll even let you come on and unmute you if you're feeling brave. No? Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna move on. We're almost there, guys. Hopefully this has been of value to you so far. But I'm right now gonna go into why we're different. The different types of. Hang on a second. Oh, I do have some questions or comments, at least. Let's see. Is it true that when the home is empty, it can cost 3 times the normal cost per year? Okay, so let me back up here. So yes, they're depending on the stage of renovation and occupancy and what you're doing. Maybe you just have a note on a property, or maybe you bought the note and you're investing in that, or maybe your property is vacant, maybe your property is under renovation. You got to think about it. Okay, from a risk standpoint, if the property is completely vacant, it's going to have the highest level of risk of potential fires, obviously vandalisms. What if it floods? What if something else happens? You have squatters, and there's a huge liability exposure. If somebody gets hurt, you still own it. So you have all these factors that, of course, are going to have a higher rate. Now you move from vacant to under renovation. The property technically is still vacant; it's not occupied, but at least you have somebody there on a regular basis, looking in on it, taking care of it, securing the property, making sure nobody's going in there, etc. So now the rate gets a little bit better. And then you go from there to tenant occupied. Now you have somebody living there all the time. Now the rate drops dramatically. So it just makes sense. So is it 3 times as much? Well, I don't know about that. But is it definitely more expensive to insure a vacant property or a property that's under renovation than a occupied property that's finished and everything's done right? Absolutely, Of course it is. It only makes sense. Okay, so great. Thank you. This is what I needed to feel comfortable. I'm a money first girl. All right. Yeah, see, I mean, it just makes sense, right, Michelle? Like to me, it just made sense. Now, a lot of people don't do it that way. A lot of people go and they get, they do property first, which is great. It's great. It's good to have that experience. I just felt, and I know this for a fact, I know this to be true because I know a lot of realtors and I've seen a lot of people do a lot of deals. And if you keep getting properties under contract and you can't get them sold and you have to keep backing out and not perform, there's going to be more and more people that don't want to work with you. Okay, so that was one of my reasons, and I wanted to be able to pull the trigger when it was ready to go. With the rental, are you using hard or private money? I'm using all cash on that rental, not using hard money. All right. Oh, you like the flow of the presentation. All right. Thank you so much. I had this thing and I didn't see these questions because they were kind of hidden. And it's funny the way that GoToWebinar does this thing, like the actual, you guys can see the presentation, everything that's going on my screen, but the question box and the actual, GoToWebinar kind of control center, you guys can't see. It's the weirdest thing, and so it was kind of hidden. So, all right. So why am I so passionate about this last part too? The insurance piece. It's so important. It's so critically important. And when I first started in the business, some of you have heard me say this before, but I was joint venturing with this lady that had the property under contract. I had the money, and I told her she needed to get insurance. But even though I was in the business, in the insurance business, um, I relied upon her to do it because I hadn't found the right company yet for these deals. And when she sent me the certificate of insurance, she it was just to put it shortly, it was the wrong insurance. And if we'd had a loss in that insurance, not only would they have rejected the loss, but they would have canceled the policy immediately because it was the wrong insurance. So shame on the insurance agent who wrote that policy, and who really it's more his fault because there aren't people out there educating investors who have no idea about insurance. I had the benefit of being in the insurance business by that time for about 8 years. So I knew this. I knew what it was. I knew what I didn't need to have. You know what I mean? And there wasn't, and even the stuff that I did find that was closer to what I needed, I knew there was a lot of things missing. So I kept searching and searching until I found this company. And a year and a half, 2 years later, I have the opportunity now to represent the American Association of Private Lenders as their exclusive insurance consultant, and represent National Real Estate Insurance Group, which is the company that I've been using personally for all my investment properties for years now. So why? Why do I do that? Why do I recommend them, and why do I use them myself? Well, first of all, some of the program benefits is that it's for all your needs. It doesn't, and there are no limits to the number of notes you own, the number of rental properties you have, the number of rehabs you're doing, or the number of apartments you have. Like whatever it is, you got to understand that these were all programs put together by tenured insurance agents, independent agency owners who are also tenured real estate investors. So the company grew and created our own captive insurance company as well, which gives us a lot more flexibility than your standard carriers. And some of the things that investors want, it's like, well, man, I don't want this cap of only being able to do 10 properties, and then I have to go find a different company. I don't want to have to do a new policy for every property that I have, and have to have different things. And what if I'm investing in different states and I have to have a whole bunch of different agents and different companies and different things? No. So we're licensed in all 50 states. We'll get to that, but that's one thing I get pretty excited about because I do business in multiple states. Properties that are either occupied, vacant, or under renovation can all be included under the same schedule or policy, and there are no location limits. So again, I don't have to split all my stuff up everywhere and make different payments and look at different schedules and talk to different people. I can develop a relationship because again, it's all about relationships. And being in the insurance business, one relationship that's very crucial to us is our relationships with our underwriters. And man, I would get so bummed after, developing a relationship with an underwriter for years, and then they get promoted or they leave or they do something else. And here's this new underwriter, and I don't know what they're going to do. They don't know how I do business and what I do. And we have to kind of start this whole vetting process again. And, so again, we understand that. Ensuring multiple owners and controlling entities under one schedule, including trusts and LLCs, and of course, every other type of entity, because we do business in multiple types of entities, and some companies are kind of squeamish when it comes to that. If you don't own it in your personal name, which is just crazy to me. I know many insurance companies that if you don't own the thing in your personal name, they don't want to do business with you, and partially rightfully so. Okay, and this is one thing that I try to drive home to people, because when you own something in an entity, which you should own all your projects and of course rental properties in an entity, so you have asset protection. It really identifies the fact that now it's a business exposure because you're deriving income, right? And so anything that's a business exposure doesn't fit into the box of all these major insurance carriers, because they write personal lines business, especially if they're dwellings, and you're not going to get necessarily, they're not going to send you to their commercial insurance side to write homes. But that's exactly what we do. We write, our policies are all commercial type policies, because the coverages are much more broad and much more flexible. So our actual packages are technically commercial policies, but the way we structure them, the way we can do these things, are for all our single family residential investors. Liability only coverage is available. Moving on, which can be important if you don't want to insure the property for whatever reason. Maybe you bought a pool of properties and some of them aren't worth very much. They're going to be kind of loss leaders, but you still have liability there, and somebody could still sue you for something that happens at that location. So you want to make sure you throw that on there. That's available. I already mentioned this. Coverage is available in all 50 states, so you can come to me for any of your needs in any state that you're investing in. Now, will we write coverage in every single area and under any condition, under any circumstance? Of course not. We're still going to underwrite, and depending on where it is and what you're doing with it, we're gonna underwrite and tell you what we can do. But by and large, we can help you. Theft and vandalism coverage is available, which is typically either excluded completely or significantly limited by most other carriers. And of course, you got to understand that if you're rehabbing properties and you have vacant properties for any reason or any length of time, one of your biggest concerns is theft of building materials, AC units, appliances, all those different things. You're more likely and a higher risk of theft than you are of fire, even though of course the fire can wipe out the property. We have the ability to escrow premium payments, and essentially what that means is, and one of the things that I do when I go into a project and I calculate all my numbers and I keep account for all my soft costs, insurance being one of them. I'll pay 6 months premium up front, just so I know that, okay, I got this paid, now it's being escrowed. And what happens is every single month they just deduct that monthly premium out of the escrow payment. And if I finish the project, say I threw 6 months worth of premium in there, and if we sell it in 4 months or 5 months, we're done and sold. Well, now they're gonna give me a prorated return of that last month of premium. Okay, no minimum earned premiums, which is important. I just dealt with a guy who's doing a rehab in Louisiana, and he came out to me a little bit too late. He had just put coverage in force about 2 days prior, but he's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to be doing more of these. Can you at least tell me, give me a comparison of what this would look like? And right away, I mean, I was just, okay, so this is not right. This is not right. This is not right. And then I gave him a proposal with all the differences and the benefits, but the insurance that he had gotten was a 6-month policy term, and it worked out that he had a 50% minimum earned premium. So not only were his coverages significantly reduced, his premium was considerably higher, and on this 6 month, he was paying like $3,400. So he was subject to half of that if he canceled the policy right now. It was basically only enforced for 3 days. But if he canceled the policy, he was going to be subject to over $1,700. So of course it didn't make sense. You had to take that risk. Now, so we don't have any minimum earned premiums. You take the policy out today and you finish the job in 2 months instead of 6. Well, we're going to return those 4 months worth of premium, or however long it takes you. Even if it's a few days ahead of schedule, and you still have premium left over, we're going to get that premium back. Overseas investors are welcome. For any of you listening to this podcast in one of the 42 odd countries that we're downloaded in, we're very, very much welcome you to come to the U.S., invest in our real estate, invest in our economy, invest in our deals, and we'll give you the right insurance to do that. Same day proof of funds. Or proof of insurance. I'm sorry, is man, I'm so used to with the whole submitting offers thing, is available. So why is that important? Because the last thing that you want is for the verification and proof of insurance to be what holds the closing up. So we, like I said, we work very closely with lenders, and that's one thing that they're very sensitive about, and so should you. So of course we want to make sure that we do that. We already talked about the no co-insurance penalties. We can create a coverage and benefit package specific to your needs every time. We don't have kind of an off-the-shelf type of policy like most carriers do. We have agreed value coverage with flexibility. So again, the co-insurance does not apply if you're insured to at least $45 a square foot. But because we will insure at agreed value, you can insure your property essentially for whatever you want. It just depends on how coverage is going to apply. Ease of use, flexibility, and cost effectiveness of our master policy is huge. You can add and delete properties. You can have you can insure notes. You can insure rentals. You can insure rehab projects and vacant houses, all on the same schedule, which is broken out on a monthly reporting form, keeping everything very, very easy, very concise for you. And of course, you can get full replacement cost coverage if you're insuring to at least $65 a square foot or greater. Now, are you going to insure for $45 or $65 a square foot? Very unlikely that you're going to go that low. There may be an occasion where you want to, or where it makes sense, and will allow you to do that, as long as you understand where the different claim settlement parameters fall into with those things. But it's just something that is available to you on an agreed value basis. In most cases, you're probably going to insure for $75 a square foot or more. And that's it, guys. As soon as you're ready for a proposal, you know how to get a hold of me. Ivan at nreinsurance.com. You can call me there on the number that you see on your screen with any insurance questions, or if you're ready to go. And we make it very, very easy. I even have a link to give you an insurance proposal, and you just punch in your information online. You can also go to c2crea.com/insurance to find out more about me, what I do there, what the differentiators really are, and how we can benefit you. And the proposal link is right there on that webpage as well. All right, have another couple of questions. How do the numbers work on the rental? Okay, so that's probably a conversation better had offline or in a different webinar altogether, because of course the numbers are similar to a fix and flip rehab. You just got to consider what the return to the investor is going to be if you're using your private money investor to acquire and fix that property, and you're going to sell to a different investor the numbers look different than if you have a end buyer already, a cash flow investor who essentially is going to lend you the money, say, okay, I want this property that you have, and here's the money to go and buy it and rehab it. And essentially the benefit to them doing it that way is that now they can get that same property for under retail cost, right? Because we're using their money. We don't have to pay another investor or leverage funds to actually do the acquisition and rehab, only to sell it basically retail to somebody else. We can cut that cost out and thus give them a product that's a little bit less expensive. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, or if you're interested in any product, of course, talk to me, and we can get something like that set up. Thank you. Have a great night. Yes, thank you. Nice webinar as usual. Thank you for the comments. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're basically at the top of the hour, and man, we skid right in there, right at the hour mark. So thanks for being here with me, guys. Right now is the time. If you have any other questions, if you have any other comments, go ahead and type them in, and I'll be happy to answer them. All right. Well, I just contacted them. Okay. Thank you, Michelle. Well, I can actually give you, if you email me there, ivan@nreinsurance.com, I can send you my direct proposal link. And the benefit to you, of course, there would be that when you submit that proposal link, it'll actually notify me and we'll assign it to a team member, but I'll actually be in the loop as well and be able to help you in any way that I can. Actually, if you go to c2crea.com/insurance and go to the bottom of that page, my direct proposal link is there as well. And then as soon as you complete that, we'll get notified and help you out. And again, if you have any other questions, or if you want me to send it to you directly, just email me at ivan@nreinsurance.com. Thanks so much. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I know Joseph. Of course, he's one of our team members. We have different team members. We have almost 40 people dedicated, and they're all licensed, and we have different teams specific to the type of investments that you're making and how many properties that you have. So absolutely, go ahead and either just send me an email, Michelle, or go there. Yeah, in fact, I prefer you send me an email and go to that web page just so I can make sure I handle it directly. Just shoot me an email at ivan@nreinsurance.com and I'll send you my direct proposal link. Happy to do that. Okay, very good. Yes, thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate you being on here with me, and I hope you found some value here. If you have any questions about what we talked about, you know where to find me, and have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.